Hello, we're here today with BITA members Portman Scott, which is a recruitment agency run by Bridie Cunningham. Bridie is also the vice chairman of our London chapter, and she's going to tell us all about an imaginative idea that an organisation can take advantage of in the unusual times that we find ourselves in. Bridie, could you tell us what this offer is all about?
Thanks, Diane. Diane, like a lot of businesses, on the day that we heard about the lockdown, we were greatly affected and sat back and thought, right, we're going to have a really difficult few months. It's unlikely that people will be hiring in the normal sense. So what can we do that potentially will give an advantage to growth businesses that are our normal clients and provide an option for those people who've found themselves through no fault of their own without a role?
Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
So what we've done is we've said to our candidates, rather than hang around for the next 4 months, how about you take an opportunity to work with a growth business who maybe could not afford to pay your full salary. So work with them on a reduced salary for 3-4 months with a view to then when the business is up and running or when we're back to normal, whenever that may be, the business then will take you on permanently on your market salary. So what we do is agree in the beginning what the market salary would be for, say, a marketing director or a head of sales. And then we also agree what will be the reduced salary for that period of time for them to work from home in lockdown, helping a business grow.
So what sort of projects? Is it projects work, or is it like a try before you buy? How would you be seeing it?
I guess it's more of a try before you buy for both parties. So, for example, we've got a company that we've just placed a marketing director in on this basis. So the marketing director, very, very talented individual, will work with this company, which is a young, small company. It's a publishing company. And she will work for them in her capacity as a marketing director, as she would normally, but just for a very reduced salary for the next few months. But they've agreed that on a certain date, if they achieve everything, if both parties achieve everything, then she will join the company as a permanent marketing director going forward.
So how you're seeing this is that some very measurable KPIs are put into place, and if they're achieved, then hopefully that means that the company can then justify the expense of offering that position. And as Portman Scott, then you would get the introductory fee, presumably at that stage.
So we're giving back, as to put it, as most people are trying to do. So we don't take any fees until the person is taken on permanently. I think we all have to be grown up about it. We don't know how it's going to work. It's it's something that we're working through with each of the companies that take the initiative on board. I think we have to be grown up. It might be that at the end of the period of time, these companies don't necessarily not want to pay the salary. It's just they can't afford it. So there may, for some of them, even though the person's done a fantastic job over a number of months, they may still not be in a position to afford to pay them their full salary. And I think we have to be grown up about it. And we have to just shake hands, and the candidate has to say, well, I've had a great few months and had an experience that I wouldn't necessarily have had, and it was better than sitting at home watching Netflix. And the client can say, look, I've had the experience of having somebody much more senior than I could have normally have afforded for a few months, and it's helped my business take the next step. As I said, we don't know how it's going to work out. It's a risk for everyone to a certain extent, but we are in really unique times. So, we've just got to kind of work through it and all be grown up about it.
It sounds really, really interesting, but how would you actually interview this person and build any kind of relationship with them? Because we're isolated. So how's that going to work?
I mean, again, Zoom's our best friend, our new best friend. So we've had to do all of whereas historically we would have met the person, our clients would have met the person. We're having to do everything on Zoom like everyone else. And that's not ideal. It's really not ideal. However friendly you can be over a camera, then nothing beats meeting someone face to face. But I think in reality, that's how it's going to be going forward. We just have to work through it and make the best of it. There are some roles, i.e. sales roles, that I think historically have always been face-to-face, that even when we come out of this, might find themselves doing negotiations and meetings with prospective clients on Zoom.
So this is very much a sort of a try before you buy. So let's supposing I was an organisation and I had a specific project that I might like somebody to do. Does that rule me out of doing that, or is that negotiable as well?
No, as I said, I think we're up for all sorts of discussions. And I think we just have to be realistic on both sides, how much someone can afford to be paid, how long it will go on for. Obviously, the carrot for the candidate is that they hope to have a permanent role going forward. But if that's not the case, if somebody just wants someone for a project, I think we just need to be really honest with them up front, and that all becomes part of the negotiation.
Excellent. So just out of interest, have you always been in recruitment, or is this, you know, where's your sort of background have taken you?
No, so Diane, I haven't been in recruitment. It was never my life. I used to be the head of UK for Carphone Warehouse, managing 1,000 stores and 24 direct reports. And prior to that, I had a number of roles in Marks and Spencer. I actually came into recruitment because having left Carphone and started my own fashion business, which I then stopped running after a number of years, I realised that it was actually quite difficult to find a role. And quite difficult to find someone who really understood business in terms of a headhunter or a recruitment person. So a friend of mine said, look, why don't we set up a recruitment business? We've both run businesses, we both understand what's required. So, you know, let's give it a go. And 9 years later, here we are. So I think we've been there, done it, and I guess have the T-shirt. So we hope that'll help give us that certain edge.
Excellent. I've often heard the terms, either it's a candidates market or it's a client market, a little bit like estate agency, I guess. So what I mean, it's unusual time. So what's that meaning at the moment, do you think?
I think we've never seen a change so dramatically like a lot of businesses overnight. And prior to this happening, it very much was what we'd call a candidates market. So there were, you know, we were having a great time. There were, in the economy to a certain extent, there were more good jobs than there were good people. I mean, there were plenty of people, but not necessarily good people. So candidates had the choice. They could decide where they wanted to go. And it was really for the client to try and sell their business to a candidate. We'll now, I suspect, go into a much more client-led market where the client has the choice. And therefore, it's much more about the candidates being even more prepared than they would be normally, really researching the business that they're being interviewed for and really trying to understand what they have that makes them that bit special.
But it's also very much, it's still very important to get the right person in the role. You know, it's a very expensive and time-consuming business, recruitment. So I think
completely. And one of the things that we always say to our clients when they say, you know, how can I get the best person if I'm a small business as opposed to a big brand? We always say to them, actually, I think you have an advantage, because what we find in some of the smaller businesses is that the CEO will actually do the first interview and will really share with the candidate what their vision is, how they set about setting up the business, showing them quite a lot about their personality and their true grit, as is quite often the case. And that really, really resonates with the candidate, because it's not always about the money. It's not always about the position. It's about the inspiration that you get from working with somebody. And no one does that better than the CEO. And what you'll find is large organizations can't always give that, because you're probably just being, you know, hired by your line manager. So small companies do have a really, really big advantage.
Okay, well, it sounds like a good idea. So how does one take advantage of it? How do we sort of get to know more about the kind of candidates that you've got that are willing to do this, and the projects that they could be working on?
The best thing is to make contact with us. As I said, we are being approached by some, you know, really interesting companies. We've got lots of candidates that are talking to us that are saying, hey, what am I going to do for the next few months? Or I've been let down by, you know, I was offered a role, but naturally it's now not come to anything. So I think we're literally taking it on a case-by-case scenario. You can see all the details behind me. Just give us a call, and, you know, we're always happy to have a chat. It may lead to something, it may not, but certainly it's worth having a 10-minute chat.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming along and telling us all about it.
Not at all. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you. Bye.